Well, welcome to an episode I really struggled to write, even with admin Nicole's help. I tell you, sometimes it's really hard to be this groany. Once again though, groaniness and creativity shone through, and we finally bring you episode 146. This episode will be recorded and edited live, without being on Discord. Bit pushed for time due to connection issues over the weekend as well, so that's why it's a bit late out. My apologies, groaners. Before we continue though, we have to pay tribute to a legend in his own right. Jim Lovell, who passed away earlier this week, was one of the first astronauts to orbit the moon in Apollo 8. He also served in the Navy. Fly high, Jim. Thank you for your service and contributions to science and knowledge and freedom. Onwards to my groans now. Overheating. So I'm going through something right now where even if I walk short distances, I sweat like nothing else. This even happens when I come out of the shower, meaning it's pointless because I've already sweated like a guilty criminal in court. I just wish I only slightly sweated instead of looking like I've gone swimming. Idiots at traffic lights. Why is it that people push the buttons and then they zone out? They talk through the entire green man and then try to cross on the red man. Maybe if you had your face out of your phone, or maybe if you were basically not daydreaming, you wouldn't have almost got flattened. People who treat hospitals like a doss house. Unfortunately, in this day and age, drugs and homelessness are big problems. However, I am sorry, you can't just stroll into a hospital and sprawl out on three of their chairs like a bed. You then get mad when security come and ask you to leave. I'm sorry, but you just can't do this, especially with your dirty footwear up on the seats. Well, I've grown once again for another week, but before the show's over, one of you out there will also take a turn to groan. Going to totally nonsensical now, we play our first game where we unleash the gibberish. It's talking nonsense. Round 1. This word is another word for happy. Your nonsense is yilosh. Pause here, groaners. Have a think. Answer, then unpause. Round 2. He could be classed as one of the main heroes in the Star Wars universe. Your nonsense is Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. Last round, round 3. This word can be used to describe intelligence, but can also do the same for flavouring. Your nonsense is I'll make sense out of the nonsense later, but we don't forget to pause at that last round there, groaners, and have a little think. We'll see who scored points later, but that is for another time in the episode. We now must ask the age-old question of why oh why. The process of making foie gras. When, as humans, will we stop doing barbarian-esque things? The process of making this luxury food item, in France for example, involves the process of overfeeding or force-feeding a duck or a goose. My apologies if you get distressed here, but that is what they do in France to make this thing. No offense to French people as well, no offense. This causes their liver to grow in size by 6 or 10 times the normal size. You can only imagine the suffering the poor creature must go through, as unlike some food production methods, this is not quick. In the UK, we have banned this process, but in France, it is a protected process under agricultural laws, I believe. Foie gras has also been said to be linked to a disease in humans called secondary amyloidosis. Animal cruelty? Still a thing in 2025? I simply must ask, why oh why? Staying with animals now, we found a hell of a what the for you. Now this may be distressing to some of you out there, but there are some crazy things going down at Copenhagen Zoo. You got an unwanted pet? A nuisance pet? A pet you don't want around? They'll take it from you, kill it, and feed it to the animals. One woman offered up a horse. I can only imagine what that horse must have done, or if she couldn't afford it, but by God. All I need to say to this is a big fat what the... It seems to be fast, but another game is here in the form of the 5-point countdown. You all know this one, groaners. You've got to guess what I'm talking about by the time we get to 1 point. If you get your answer right at clue 5, but change it to clue 4, you don't get 5 points. I mean, if you change it wrong to clue 4, you have to start again at clue 3 to get further points. I know I've just made no sense, but hopefully it makes sense. Clue 5 for 5 points. Without it, you'd not be able to feed the world. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think about things, and then unpause, and as we go into clue number 4. For 4 points, it can be done with animal or vegetable. Pause here, groaners. Have a think. Don't have a dirty mind for God's sake. Then unpause. Clue 3 for 3 points. When playing games online with experience points, repeating the same action over time to get experience in an allotted time can also be called this. Pause here, groaners, especially the gamers. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. Clue 2 for 2 points. Humans have been doing this for centuries. Again, get your mind out of the gutter. Pause here. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. I realise some of these clues sound a bit dodgy, but my apologies. Clue 1 for 1 point. Unfortunately, the process can also damage the land it is done on, especially in vegetable methods. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. The answer to what on earth I was talking about will come later. Now, groaners, you took part in the games, but one of you is now front and centre for the audience groan. An anonymous friend of the show groaned in via email, wishing to remain anonymous. They were hoping to get treatment from their doctors, who were originally helping, but they did a complete 180, saying because they don't have cancer, their issues aren't a priority. This also means they need to find $4,000 before they can no longer walk. Their key groan is both two-faced people and being given false hope. A horrible situation there, anonymous groaner. I do hope things get somewhat easier, and since I know you, you're always welcome to talk to me. A good groan, albeit you're full of pain as well. Groaners, if you'd like to contact the show with your groans or content, you may do so using the following methods. You can drop us an email at thegroanzonepod@gmail.com. You can contact myself, that's Mr. E. Groaner, or admin Nicole and Nicole Amos on Facebook Messenger. Speaking of Facebook, you can hit up the Facebook groups, which is the Groan Zone Podcast Facebook group, or you can find us usually Friday nights, 8:30 PM Greenwich Mean Time, where we record live on Discord under the Groan Zone. And also, the room has been fixed. It has now not been age restricted because it's a safe space for all ears. And also, lastly, you can put a comment on YouTube, you can put a comment on Podbean, where you listen to, put a comment, we'll review it, and possibly your idea may get used in the show. From groans, we now creepy it up with Admin Nicole's Creepy Corner. Your story for episode 146 is called Ocean Tides. Maria Falso stood at the edge of the sand, peering down into the ocean below, ready to cross off the last of her day's chores. Sometimes she would stand and watch the sunset before she returned to her aquatic village below, but chores were chores, and as a girl of 18 years old, she was now important to her people, free to be loved and respected by all. Her village is deep underwater, so all in her village are blessed with gills to allow them to breathe safely. Swimming around is hard with legs, but they learn and adjust, all until they turn 16 and the annual blessing ceremony makes them an official part of the village. Loved, feared, respected. All things only a true member of the village can receive. As the child grows up, they are simply known as guppies, never children, merely a mold to form and raise into something worthy of the village. Maria smiled as the sun disappeared for another day and dove into the ocean ready to swim back home. On land, many take on humanoid appearances and can breathe for a few hours at a time, but those who have been blessed return to their true form upon entering the water. The annual blessing ceremony bestows every member of the village with the blessing of the ocean once they are old enough to receive it. Encyclopedia is ready and stocked up full of all animals of the sea and its plants naturally. Miriam remembers how happy she was to receive her blessing, and even more so to not be chosen for a year's annual refresh ceremony, where one who received their blessing that day must be tossed into the raging whirlpool to be sacrificed for the sake of the village. Her tail, which replaced her legs in the ocean, was unique to say the least, but something she was in fact bullied for, but she grew to love it. Her blessing was that of a nudibranch, or as many preferred it to call it, the sea slug. She was mocked constantly for being that of a sea slug, often insulted and looked down on as if the great ocean itself had betrayed her. Yet what she had was no betrayal, it was an oversight. By the time she was into her new form, after around a year, she had quickly been chosen for a prestigious role in the village. Any chance for her to swim around with her vividly colourful tail was always an excitement for her. One thing many in the village didn't know after she got a blessing, however, was that she didn't just get the blessing of one nudibranch. She got all the variations and subspecies of them. She learned that eating coral gave her the ability to produce solar power, which ended up changing the village immensely. They no longer had to live in the dark, and her ability to regrow body parts made her fear almost nothing. The one thing she didn't know, however, was that the nudibranch is only supposed to live for a few years, some only lasting a single week. She had no idea whether it was the blessing keeping her alive, or she just wasn't meant to die yet. It didn't matter to her though. Most of this village loved her, and she loved them in return. Life wasn't always easy for her, and in many ways it still isn't. She had earned herself a right to be in the village, to be seen and heard. She received her parents' love after 16 long years of waiting. There was nothing she wouldn't do for this village, but maybe that was her problem. She returned home following her chores for the day. She was lucky today, as all she had to do was collect all the plastic and rubbish thrown in the ocean and return it to the docks, ready to be refurbished. Nothing was ever wasted or removed, always renewed. As the old saying went, never go against the ocean, it sees all and knows all. No one will survive if the ocean's wrath is ever tested. She sat down to dinner with her parents, enjoying the usual daily meal of seaweed and roots before it was time for them to attend the 5th service of the day in the temple. The Grand Council was made it clear what the rules were. The rules keep them safe. Answering questions lead to unforeseen consequences. Memorize the rules, obey the rules. The rules make for a happy and efficient community. As Maria was getting ready for bed that night, she thought she heard a whisper. She looked around, but there was no one there, so she decided it must be nothing. As the rules say, a person who's lost their way or hears things they shouldn't has no part in this village. So she ignored it and went to sleep. However, in her dreams, that voice was even louder, almost shouting at her, but she could barely make out all of the words. Have you remembered yet? There now, groaners, is a hidden message in this story. Respect the oceans, something we humans don't do in this day and age. But very tiny villages in the middle of nowhere, stay away or be wary. And if you do find yourself in a village in the bottom of the ocean, wake up now, you're asleep. On the last game of the show comes in the form of a 2-round that may be a one-off game called 50-50. Why 50-50? Because that's the chance you have of getting the right choice. Round 1. A. When durian fruit isn't ripe, it is said to smell sweet instead of the trashy smell when it is ripe. B. Goodnight Girl was a hit for the band Wet, Wet, Wet. Pause here, groaners. Have a think. Make your choice. You'll find out later were you 50% right or 50% wrong. Round 2. A. The California Raisin brand had a short-lived cartoon featuring themselves. Or B. Quad bikes are illegal in the state of Oregon. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, and then unpause. And then later on, you will find out were you 50% right or 50% wrong. Answers coming soon, groaners. We move on to name our zero of the week. This zero has no joy in their soul and shouldn't have been listened to. At St Andrews in Holborn, Fulham, I think that's near London, near the end of July on a Friday, the City Academy Voices Choir was coming to the end of their performance. Suddenly, the lights were turned off and the bishop, Jonathan Baker, came out barefoot to the microphone. I think he was wearing a dressing gown as well, judging by the photograph. In front of a 300 member strong audience, he said, "You're in my house, it's gone past 10 PM, and this is a terrible racket. Good night, can you leave it now please? Thank you, it's over." Unbeknownst to the bishop, the performance had overrun due to technical difficulties, and the property had been rented out for the performance. He should have expected it, and people thought his appearance was a joke. But not half a joke as his flat apology. "Mr. Bishop, it's a choir who were bloody hard working, and according to the audience it wasn't a racket. Sit down and shut up because you've been smited with 0 of the week branding. Enjoy it." Now groaners, here are the game answers. Talking nonsense. Round 1, your nonsense was jolly. Round 2, your nonsense was Anakin Skywalker. Round 3, your nonsense was artificial. Tough ones this week, well done if you got any. The 5-point countdown, I was talking about farming. 50-50. B was true for round 1, A was true for round 2. Well done if you got either or both of those. Anagram anxiety. Your solution to last week's brain breaker was the domino damselfish. It's the fish that is unique to Hawaii. Usually the protected waters are around the coral reefs. One day, Nicole, I'll crack one of your hard anagrams, I swear. With any Luck Groaners, you scored points this week on some or all of the games. If not, there's always next week. We leave you with our picture puzzler. Who the hell am I? In his movie biopic, he was played by Jamie Foxx. He was a legendary piano player and he even had a cameo appearance in the Blues Brothers. He was also blind. The answer will come next week. The picture will appear on Discord, Facebook, and the Podbean website. Again, it's one of those things, groaners, where we can't get it to show up anywhere else. Thanks for tuning in, groaners. See you next time. Bye-bye. That's a mistake. She learned at eating Man, I can't read, groaners. I can't read this. She learned it, and I can't stop laughing either. She learned that eating coral.